Ethan arrived 10 minutes early, which was unusual for him, but tonight felt different. The cafe glowed softly against the darkening street, its windows fogged with warmth and quiet conversations. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee and baked pastries wrapped around him like a memory he couldn't place. He chose a small table near the window, smoothing his jacket and checking his phone again, even though he already knew the time. A blind date at 36 felt like admitting defeat, yet here he was, hoping, against his better judgment, that this might be the night something shifted in his lonely routine. When the door opened and Lena stepped in, his breath caught. She wasn't flashy or overly dressed, but there was an effortless grace in the way she moved, like someone used to watching her surroundings carefully. Her eyes scanned the room before settling on him, and when she smiled, it felt genuine enough to quiet the voice in his head telling him not to trust easy things. She apologized softly for being late, blaming traffic, and slid into the chair across from him. Her hands trembled just slightly as she wrapped them around her cup, though she tried to hide it by laughing at his joke. Conversation flowed more smoothly than Ethan expected. They talked about childhood memories, favorite comfort foods, and small dreams that sounded more like wishes than plans. Lena listened intently, nodding, her fingers absently touching the thin chain around her neck whenever he spoke. There was something fragile about her, something that made Ethan want to lean in, to protect the moment from breaking. Still, he noticed the pauses, how she deflected when he asked about her job, how her smile flickered when his phone buzzed with a work email he quickly ignored. Each time her own phone lit up, she turned it face down without looking. Ethan told himself everyone had secrets. He knew he did. Loss had taught him that much. The waitress returned with their drinks, but instead of leaving right away, she lingered. She looked tired, her apron stained from a long shift, yet her eyes were sharp, almost anxious. As she placed Ethan's cup down, her fingers brushed his hand. In that brief touch, something folded slipped onto his lap. Her eyes met his for a split second, filled with urgency, then she turned away as if nothing had happened. Lena was distracted, watching raindrops begin to streak the window. Ethan's heart pounded as he unfolded the napkin beneath the table. The words were written hastily, ink slightly smeared, as if the writer had been afraid of being seen. "She's not who you think she is. Please be careful." His throat went dry. He looked up at Lena, who turned back toward him with a soft smile, unaware of the storm now crashing inside his chest. The cafe suddenly felt louder, closer, like the walls were leaning in. Ethan forced a smile in return, folding the napkin slowly, his mind racing. Moments ago, this evening felt like hope. Now, it felt like the edge of something dangerous, and he had no idea which voice to trust. Lena excused herself a few minutes later, offering a quick, apologetic smile as she stood. "I'll be right back," she said, her voice light but strained, and walked toward the restroom at the back of the cafe. The moment she disappeared, the air around Ethan felt heavier, as if the note in his pocket had weight. He took it out again, rereading the words, hoping they might change, hoping he'd misunderstood. They didn't. His fingers tightened around the napkin just as the waitress returned, wiping her hands on her apron. She didn't ask if he needed anything. Instead, she hovered, eyes darting toward the hallway where Lena had gone. Finally, she leaned closer, lowering her voice so no one else could hear. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I know this isn't my place." Ethan looked up at her, searching her face for malice or gossip. All he saw was worry. "Why did you write that?" he asked quietly. The waitress swallowed. "Because I've seen this before. Not just once." She gestured vaguely around the cafe. "She comes in every few weeks. Always well-dressed, always nervous. Always with someone new." Ethan felt a dull ache settle in his chest. "Are you sure it's her?" The waitress nodded. "Same eyes. Same necklace." Her voice dropped further. "Last month, a man came back here looking for her. He was shaking. Said he'd lent her money after she told him she loved him. She never answered his calls again. Ethan exhaled slowly, his mind scrambling for logic. He wanted to defend Lena, to believe there was another explanation, but the details lined up too neatly. "Why tell me?" he asked. The waitress hesitated, then gave a sad smile. "Because he sat right where you're sitting now. And he cried. I don't want to watch that happen again." Before Ethan could respond, footsteps approached. Lena was returning. The waitress straightened instantly, asking if everything was okay, slipping back into her professional mask before moving away. Lena sat down, her hands clasped tightly together. Her eyes were red, lashes damp. "Ethan," she said, barely above a whisper, "there's something I need to say." He held up the napkin, unfolding it between them. For a second, her face went completely still. Then her shoulders sagged, as if she'd been carrying something too heavy for too long. "You know," she murmured. Silence stretched between them, thick and painful. The cafe noise faded again, replaced by the sound of Ethan's heartbeat. Lena's composure cracked. Tears welled up, spilling over despite her effort to stop them. "I didn't plan this," she said quickly. "I didn't come here to hurt you. I didn't know how else to survive." Ethan listened as she spoke, her words tumbling out in broken pieces. Debts she couldn't escape. A mother who needed medication she couldn't afford. Lies that started small and grew because telling the truth felt too dangerous. She didn't excuse herself. She didn't deny what she'd done. "I just wanted one evening," she whispered, "where I could pretend I was normal. Where I wasn't scared." Ethan felt anger, yes, but beneath it was something deeper. Sadness. Understanding. He looked at the woman across from him, no longer a mystery, but a person standing at the edge of her own collapse, waiting to see if he would turn away. They sat there for a long moment after Lena stopped speaking, the silence between them fragile and exposed. Ethan noticed how small she looked now, shoulders curved inward, hands clenched together as if bracing for impact. He could walk away. That was the simplest, safest choice. No explanations, no complications, just stand up and let the night end the way so many others had. Lena seemed to expect it. She didn't meet his eyes. Ethan stood, and her breath hitched. But instead of leaving, he reached for his coat and held it out to her. "It's cold outside," he said gently. "Let's talk where it's quieter." Outside, the rain had slowed to a mist, the streetlights casting soft halos on the wet pavement. The city felt hushed, as if giving them space. They stood beneath the cafe awning, the warmth from inside fading behind them. Lena hugged the coat around herself, her tears falling freely now. She apologized again and again, each word heavier than the last, until Ethan finally lifted a hand to stop her. "I'm not saying what you did was right," he said quietly. "But I don't think you're evil either." She looked up at him then, eyes wide with disbelief. "Most people don't wait long enough to decide that." He nodded. "Most people don't listen long enough." Ethan told her about his own loneliness, about the loss that made him cautious, about how hope felt dangerous when it had failed you before. He didn't offer money. He didn't promise love. What he offered was simpler, and rarer. "Be honest," he said. "With me. With yourself. If you want to start over, let it be real." Lena pressed her lips together, nodding through tears. For the first time that night, her expression wasn't guarded. It was raw, uncertain, and human. Weeks later, the cafe would see them again, not as a couple, but as two people rebuilding. Ethan helped her find legitimate work through a contact who owed him a favor. The waitress, Maya, became part of their quiet circle, sharing late-night coffee and stories after closing. Lena paid off small debts, one careful step at a time, learning what it felt like not to run. The blind date never turned into romance, and that was okay. What it became was something steadier, a turning point. A night when a warning written on a napkin didn't end in ruin, but in truth. And sometimes, that was the kind of love that saved you first.